What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all the stats as well as some excellent attachment combinations for every gun in Black Ops 6. And in today's episode, we're going to get into the Marksman Rifle category with the SWAT 5.56. And starting it off as always, let's have a look at our damage profile. And with this gun, it's a 3 to 4 shot kill, and it's worth noting up front, this is a 3-round burst gun, so it will get a 1 burst kill to the body in that maximum damage range, but not beyond that, unless you're hitting headshots. And on their own, headshots are actually reasonably effective. In that second damage range, even without the CHF barrel, all you need to do is mix 1 headshot in with those 2 body shots to maintain a 1 burst or 3-shot kill. And then at a distance, all 3 shots would have to hit the head unless you're using the CHF barrel, in which case only 2 out of those 3 shots need to hit the head. But realistically speaking, at that range, even with all of the recoil attachments, you're not likely to get that 1 burst kill regardless of whether or not you're using this barrel. And as a result, I would say just stay far away from the CHF barrel on the SWAT 5.56. As for a rate of fire, keep in mind I do have to hand test this, and it is difficult to get absolute perfect values with hand testing for burst weapons, but our rate of fire within each burst is roughly 714 rounds per minute with a roughly 280 millisecond burst delay. And what this means is our time to kill potential with a 1 burst kill is just 168 milliseconds, which is insanely fast. That will destroy just about everything in this game that isn't a 1-shot kill weapon. However, if you don't get that 1 burst kill, now it's going to take you 532 milliseconds for a 4-shot kill, and that is a very slow time to kill, so definitely high risk, high reward. Then when it comes to rapid fire, as far as I can tell, again, I am limited with hand testing to a degree, as far as I can tell, the rate of fire within the burst is either exactly the same, or it doesn't change enough at least to even be perceptible at 120 FPS. However, our burst delay is very noticeably reduced. It's now just 210 milliseconds. And this means with a 1 burst kill, we're killing just as effectively with or without rapid fire. But when you need that second burst, now you're going to have noticeably more forgiveness, and our 4-shot time to kill potential is 462 milliseconds. As for our ranges, our 3-shot or 1 burst range is about 32 meters, which is pretty solid. And then that second damage range will extend out to 43.2 meters. And just a reminder, that's where you only need to land 1 headshot mixed in with 2 body shots to maintain that 3-shot kill. Also, our bullet velocity, while it's the slowest in the Marksman Rifle category, it's still very solid for this game at 830 meters per second, which gives us a very solid hit scan range at 41.5 meters. However, we can bump that up if we use the gain twist barrel. That'll give us a 30% boost to our velocity. However, I much prefer the long barrel on this gun because that increases our maximum damage range to about 41.5 meters. So it essentially just matches our hit scan range. And to me, that's just far more valuable than boosting only our bullet velocity. However, if you want to boost a little bit of both, you could use the reinforced barrel, which gives a 15% boost to range and a 25% boost to velocity. Then with that rapid fire attachment, just like we typically see here, it will reduce both our range and velocity values by 10%. And now let's have a look at hardcore. And in hardcore modes, the SWAT 5.56 is a 1-shot kill at any range. Not a 1 burst kill, but a 1 bullet kill at any range. So super forgiving in hardcore modes. As long as you're hitting 1 of those bullets in a burst, you're good to go. But of course, there is a delay there. So if you're dealing with multiple enemies, sometimes that delay between the bursts as you're switching from one target to the next, that can get you killed compared to a full auto. As for hipfire, the SWAT 5.56 is awful in this area. You generally don't want to be hipfiring anytime you can avoid it with this gun. It's actually the worst in the Marksman Rifle category, and Marksman Rifles are already pretty bad. Then when it comes to recoil, the nice thing about this gun is it does recenter nicely after every burst. And each burst is quite accurate, but there is a little bit of vertical recoil, and it does have a tendency to lean a little bit to the right as well with each of those bursts. So that is something to account for to some degree. And at longer ranges, it can be difficult to stay pinpoint accurate, but if you're staying within the effective ranges, this is quite an accurate gun. Then, of course, if you want to use the CHF barrel, which like I said earlier, I wouldn't recommend this since it only helps in the minimum damage range, you could do that and it will increase your recoil a little bit. And with rapid fire, this also just slightly increases the amount of total spread you see with your burst. So it is slightly less accurate and it will affect your ability to get those longer range 1 burst kills if you're really stretching the effective ranges. As for handling, we actually have the fastest aim down sight time in the Marksman Rifle category at 315 milliseconds. When you compare that with something like an assault rifle though, that is quite slow, so you can't just be rushing around like crazy with this unless you're using some attachments to help there. It's a similar story with our sprint to fire time. This is the fastest for marksman rifles at 205 milliseconds, and that is more comparable to what you'd see with an assault rifle. And then when it comes to our slide to fire and dive to fire times, these are both just standard and the same as what you would see with assault rifles at 370 milliseconds and 450 milliseconds respectively. After that, taking a look at our reload add time, this is the slowest in the Marksman Rifle category by a pretty noticeable margin at 2.08 seconds. That's quite a slow reload, but then again, you get 10 bursts out of each of your default magazines, which should typically last you for several gunfights, and therefore you can generally plan those reloads accordingly. Now, if you wanted, you could reduce your magazine capacity with the flip mag or fast mag, and both of these will improve your reload speeds, or you could go for the bigger mags with extended mag 1 or 2, but those will slow down your reload time. For me personally, I just like the default 30 round mag. I feel like that's perfectly fine for dealing with all the enemies I need to before getting a reload. And then finally, for the base stats on this gun, let's have a look at our movement speeds. And across the board, we're just a little bit below average for the Marksman Rifles. And in general, Marksman Rifles are fairly slow, especially if you put them side by side with an assault rifle. They're going to be noticeably slower. So this gun really isn't designed for being hyper aggressive by any means. And with that, it's finally time to get into some excellent attachment combinations, and the first one I wanted to share is my stealth build, which honestly, I've been using less and less with this, simply because I find this gun performs much better with a muzzle brake, but if I am trying to stay off the radar, this is the setup I use. So we've got the suppressor, the long barrel, so we get that increase to our one burst kill potential, the ergonomic grip to help with aim down sight time, slide to fire, and dive to fire times, the infiltrator stock so we can strafe faster, and this time it's actually the only build I've got with the infiltrator stock for once. And then finally, we're topping this off with rapid fire. So we do have that shorter delay. It's a little bit more forgiving if you do miss the first burst. And it is reasonably accurate, but it's the least accurate build I'm going to be sharing today. So like I said, not my preferred build with the SWAT 556, but one that I wanted to share. Next up, let's get into my Gunfighter build. And this one is an excellent all-arounder. With it, we've got the Kepler Microflex Optic, the muzzle brake, which I have tested all of the muzzles extensively, and on this gun, the muzzle brake gives us the best accuracy overall. We once again have that long barrel to increase our one burst kill potential. We have the vertical foregrip to essentially eliminate that horizontal recoil, so it basically just kicks straight upward now with each burst. And then we once again have the ergonomic grip. This time we're using the combat stock, which helps us a little bit with our aim walking speed, but it also helps with flinch resistance, which I find to be quite important, especially on Marksman Rifles, because Marksman Rifles do have a higher flinch value than the other guns in the game. After that, we have the target laser, so that really minimizes any sort of idle sway that we experience. And then finally, we're once again topping this off with rapid fire, so it is a bit more forgiving if you don't get that one burst kill. And this build is excellent on the SWAT 556. I feel like it does rely on attachments quite a bit, so Gunfighter is well suited to this gun. However, if I want an accurate build without using Gunfighter, this is the build I've found myself using. So with this one, we're once again using the Kepler Microflex, the muzzle brake, the long barrel, and the vertical foregrip. But this time, instead of rapid fire, we're using recoil springs. So this is the most accurate version of the SWAT 556 that you can get. And this time we don't have rapid fire to help with that forgiveness, but this also means we get maximum range potential because the rapid fire does cut down on our range. And therefore this build is all about getting those one burst kills as consistently and effectively as possible. And if you are getting those one burst kills, it's not like rapid fire is doing anything to help you anyway. And with that, that's gonna wrap it up today's gun guide on the SWAT 556. As for my thoughts on this gun, I would say it's my second favorite burst marksman rifle in the game, which obviously isn't saying much since there's only 2 of them. But realistically, I don't mind the SWAT 556. I enjoy it. It's a little bit more forgiving than the AEK if you don't get the one burst kill, but it's harder to get a one burst kill, and it's still quite unforgiving overall. So it's usable, but I would generally perform better with a full auto. And of course, that is just my opinion, and I'd love to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How do you feel about the SWAT 556 in Black Ops 6? And if you guys have missed any of the previous episodes, we've covered all of the assault rifles and SMGs that are currently in the game. I will leave a link to the playlist in the description down below. If you enjoyed this one, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.